In this video, we're going to take a look at Standard 6.8d. The standard says, determine solutions for problems involving the area of rectangles, parallelograms, trapezoids, and triangles, and volume of right rectangular prisms where dimensions are positive rational numbers. I would like to take a moment and discuss with you how this student expectation was tested on the STAR test, the state assessment test for Texas. There were 2 items on the STAR test, and for both those items, the students had to use the ruler on the reference materials to measure dimensions before finding the area. So what are the implications for instruction? Well, one implication is that students need to be using the STAR Grade 6 reference materials in classroom when you're teaching this standard. For 2 very important reasons. Number 1, they need to be aware of the formulas that are provided, which will be useful for this standard. And then, of course, the rulers. They have to be comfortable with using that ruler to measure dimensions to then calculate area and volume. Just a note about printing the STAR reference materials, which are available on the TEA website. But when you are printing, you have to be careful because you want to make sure that the rulers are scaled properly. So to ensure that the rulers are scaled properly, when you're printing the PDF document, under the page and size handling area, you need to select actual size. When you select that, then the scaling should be correct for the rulers on the formula chart or reference materials. So let's look real quickly at the reference materials. There's actually 2 sides. This is the one that I've printed from the TEA website. So one side has some formulas for area and volume, and then along the side, the right-hand side, there's a ruler in inches. The other side of the formula chart contains some conversions, and then along the left side of the formula chart is a centimeter ruler. So now let's look at an item from the STAR test, a released item for this standard. So this problem says, the rectangle below represents the base of a rectangular prism. Use the ruler provided to measure the dimensions of a rectangle to the nearest centimeter. The height of the rectangular prism is 12 centimeters. What is the volume of the rectangular prism? Before we continue with solving this problem, I just want to review some vocabulary terminology with you. So first, let's discuss volume. Well, volume is a measurement attribute of the amount of space occupied by matter. A rectangular prism is a prism with 6 rectangular faces. 2 of the rectangular faces are parallel, and we call those the bases. The other 4 faces are also rectangular. The base of a rectangular prism are any 2 congruent, opposite, and parallel faces shaped like rectangles. For a rectangular prism, there is more than one set. The height of a rectangular prism is the length of one side that is perpendicular to both bases. The formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is V equals big B times H, where the big B or capital B is the base area and H represents the height of the prism, which is the number of times the base area is repeated or layered. So let's go back to the problem. So we need to use the STAR reference materials to measure the dimensions of the rectangular base to the nearest centimeter. So I've got my reference materials, and I'm going to measure here the height, which is about to the nearest centimeter, 5 centimeters. And now I'm going to measure along the bottom here, and I get about a length of 4 centimeters. Students need to practice. It's very different measuring with a ruler than measuring with the reference materials because there is a little gap here between the edge of the paper and the ruler. Let me see if I can show you. So students need to get used to that, which is why it's important that they practice with the reference materials in class. Okay, so we have the dimensions of the base, and then they tell us the height of the rectangular prism is 12 centimeters. All right, so let's go back. We know our formula for the volume of a rectangular prism. It is provided on the reference materials, so the students can always look to find the volume on their reference materials during the STAR test, which is the volume is the area of the base times the height. I'm just defining the variables here. V is the volume of the rectangular prism. The big B or capital B is the area of the base of the prism, and H is the height of the prism. So what is the shape of the base? Well, we know it's a rectangle. So how do we find the area of a rectangle? Well, again, if we go to our STAR formula chart, or reference materials, we're going to see under area, we have a formula for rectangle or parallelogram, and that formula is A equals BH. So to find the area of a rectangle, area equals BH, or base times height. So going back to the figure and what we measured, we know that the base of the rectangle has a length of 4 centimeters and a height of 5 centimeters. So we can find the area of that rectangle to be 20 centimeters squared. Now, we still got to think about our volume formula. We have found the area of the base, which was a rectangle. We found that area to be 20 centimeters squared. We are given in the problem that the prism has a height of 12 centimeters. So now, just to find the volume, we just finish multiplying. 20 times 12 will give us 240. Our dimensions will be centimeters cubed. So the volume of a rectangular prism that has a base, a rectangular base with dimensions of 4 centimeters and 5 centimeters, and the height of 12 centimeters for the prism will give us a volume of 240 centimeters cubed.